Good morning, afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are and when you're watching this. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Me and ADHD. Now, I've talked about masking previously, and I wanted to go into a little bit more detail about some of my experiences, and I've got a guest on today as well. But the question is, why do we mask? The constant negative, I guess, comments that we receive throughout our lives, where we are made to feel that we need to conform at all times, in all places, by all people, and for all ages as well. It means we naturally start to mask how we feel and how we would normally act and react in order to satisfy the wants and needs of other people, basically, and society. Now, as people, all we want is acceptance by others and to feel like we belong. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody masks from time to time, be it for a job interview, at your job, in a library, at school, while shopping, with friends, lots of places and lots of situations. We all mask from time to time, but these are generally always short in duration and often sporadic, with most of your daily hours used for actually just being you. But imagine if you go to work and spend all day in a meeting being grilled by the CEO of the company you work for, explaining to them about your job role as a manager, what you have to offer, what you have done for the company, what you think should change, how do you feel upper management have treated you and what they should change to improve, and why you should keep your job. All right. So that's like a 10-hour meeting. And then you have to do the same with the company's COO the next day, then the CFO the following day, and each subsequent days with each of the non executive directors, just to make them feel that you are relevant and fit in with the company and that you're worthy of your job, your position, and your pay continuously because you really want to keep the job and trying so hard to say the things you feel they want to hear. It's exhausting. And by the end of the week, you're going to want to either freak out of the weekend and get completely wrecked on Friday night, Saturday night, or even implode and just need to shut away from everyone and all pressures and stress and just like be on your own in quiet. Just to be able to sort of make it through so you can get through to go to then work on the following Monday. Now imagine that every single day since you were a child. No real weekends to recover because it could be every day, and it gets so much worse the older you get, as society's expectations are so much higher when you start hitting certain age brackets. This is how I feel about my masking. The feeling you must conform to have friends, be left alone in school, not stand out because you just want to blend in. It's just heartbreaking to see and psychological torture to have to endure, and it's relentless. Well, today, guys, to help me put the world to rights, I have a very special guest today, my fellow TikToker, Chico ADHD. Oh, God, are we really TikTokers? So,
Very
so
good morning,
Chico.
TikTokers. We're social influencers, my love.
How you doing, buddy? You
I'm
all
not
right?
too bad. I'm bearing up. All things considered, with life at the minute, I'm bearing up. It's great to speak with you. It's lovely, and thank you very much for inviting me to come on and have a chat with you.
No problem at all. No problem. So, now, like myself, you are late diagnosed, aren't you?
That's
ADHD.
absolutely correct. Yep, last year.
Okay, yeah, same as me. Okay, so obviously you're going through the journey very similar to myself. We're trying to find out what's what is or what isn't ADHD, how it all fits in with you, and how it all affects your life now and previously, I guess.
It's a complex journey. A lot of people have said to me that um, getting a diagnosis of ADHD, which incidentally wasn't something that I went out looking for. It came to me, um, and getting a diagnosis of ADHD is it's like a double-edged sword because there's the final piece of the jigsaw is put together and such a relief in one way, um, but at the same time, you enter what I can only describe as a grieving process where you've got to reevaluate and put reasons behind so many things, good and bad, from childhood all the way through to where you are, and it's a journey of self discovery. So, I'm coming on here having a chat to you, but not from a position of authority, from a position of personal experience, and as two people who are basically sharing the same kind of path, which is probably going to be an ongoing path for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of information out there, and it's trying to really work out where you fit into it all and what's relevant to you as well. But I mean, regarding the
Mm,
masking, I mean, when I first was diagnosed, I mean, they didn't really talk about the masking when I was diagnosed, but once I was diagnosed, I started looking at everything and what entails the whole ADHD neurodiverse, you know, world, I
yeah.
guess. And masking was a big one. And I looked at that and I just think, yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't know what it was at the time, but yeah, you try and just fit in and just get through each day without the amount of
You
criticism,
do. I think.
you know,
I think.
that
I
you
think
normally
the
get.
penny drops. I think just quickly, you just touched on something there, which is a bit off subject, but just really quickly. You said when you get diagnosed with ADHD, they don't tell you about masking. They don't tell you about anything, really. The process
Yeah,
that we're in is you're told you've got something. You're given a diagnosis, a label, a tag, or whatever you want to call it, and if you're lucky and if it's the right option for you, you're given medication. And even I speak a lot about this. Psychologically, the professionals don't get it in many cases. So you end up, and thank God for the internet, but you end up, for me, going crazy thinking, what is this? Searching, finding, making connections, meeting people like you, and
yeah.
that's where the word masking starts to crop up, and for me certainly, and I can only speak for me because we're all different. But for me, the word masking came up, and it kind of resonated a bit. And then I started talking to people and realizing, oh my God, yeah, this is the one of the struggles that I faced all my life and never even knew that I was doing it.
So how do you feel that that it affected you? You know, looking back now, I mean, you probably didn't realize at the time, maybe, I don't know, but looking back now, how do you feel, you know, that changed everything for you, positive or
How did
negative?
it change it?
No, how did it change you? I mean, what did you have to do to mask?
I, I'll give you. I mean, it affects every aspect of life. From childhood, literally from. It's tough enough for kids, whoever you are, finding your place in society when you're growing up. But it's something that affects you because when you're neurodivergent, um, you don't know you're neurodivergent until it's diagnosed, and you don't know what's
Yeah,
different and what's not different. And to give you an example, um, if you put um, a child in a room, and there's a lot of other children who are all wearing the same clothes, and that's it. They always wear the same type of clothes, and then later somebody else comes in the room that's wearing something completely different. Um, it's a new thing. You can't. I'm kind of going to say to you, just edit that bit out because I'm talking nonsense now because I can't even get my words out. But
No, no, no.
it's a
Keep
kind
going,
of
man.
it's a difference that's there that you don't understand, and just that self identity and the lack of knowing yourself what's wrong with you, because something is and you know it, and trying to fit in is deeply draining physically and mentally, particularly throughout all your life, and it becomes the norm.
Yeah,
And you touched earlier on, you spoke very well about how, for example, in work, and it's a common thing, affects many people, but socially, um, I found myself over the years in my search, like we all do, to find our place socially. You make friends, you form relationships, and I'm not saying those relationships are based on an invalid truth, but you fit into that relationship because you think it's normal the way people are, the things they like. The guys going to the football, and that's not my thing, but you go along and you
yeah,
think you're enjoying. I give this as an example. I hate football, but I'm just giving you this as an example. You even think you're enjoying something, or you think it's your place, when deep down inside it's not. Social events, and something that I was thinking about a lot, because I suffer with other parts of other things which now are clear with ADHD, with the diagnosis. But social events for me, where everybody goes out to have a good time, for me, in many cases, were
yeah,
actually traumas in my life. I mean, they were emotional journeys. If you take something like, you get invited to a wedding, um, brilliant, it's a party.
yeah,
If you go in there and you've got ADHD, so first thing, in my case, I have difficulty when there's noise and focus and things in maintaining a conversation or even hearing what people are saying. I convinced myself I was going deaf for years. You've got the build up to these
yeah,
situations. You're going to be meeting people who, for example, if you have a problem, which I do, in memorizing faces, who are going to be coming up to you and saying, "Hi, how are you?" And they know who you are. You don't know who they are. And you've got to find coping strategies, and you put this front on. And the hardest part is, everybody, in my experience, in that wedding or that party or that whatever, thinks that I'm the life and soul of the party, when actually I'm not. I just want to run away and hide. And I've had
yeah,
situations where because I've not known, where the mask has just not been strong enough, and I've had complete meltdowns and ended up causing disasters at social events because I've just imploded. So getting diagnosed with ADHD, you can start to find out who you are, but it's not as simple as, it's not a question. I was talking to somebody who's not got ADHD, and we touched on this subject, and it's not as simple as literally rip the mask off and da-da, I'm here. It's not, because you are you. You've built who you are.
yeah,
It's more of a putting in place your limits, putting in place your social expectations, evaluating your relationships with people, and what's good for you. So it's a huge thing, and it's every aspect of your life. Somewhere along the line, we go along the analogy that I can personally relate to, and I'm going to stop talking. This is put two people ADHD talking about a subject like this, and we're fighting to get a word in edgeways. But I'm also gay, so that something that maybe some people will relate to. When I was growing up, um, as a child, when you're different in some way, we'll just say different. Um, you go through a period of knowing you're different. You then go through a period where everyone else seems to know
yeah,
you're different, and you don't know why, and you get picked on, bullied. This crops up a lot. You see this, and you really don't understand. Now, as somebody who's gay, that develops, and you come to a stage where you realize what it is. You realize why you're different. You then have mental trauma and traumatic time in coming to terms with that and the whole coming out process. But then once you've done that, you can live your life. You've fitted in, and as a gay man, I sometimes have to mask, not hide who I am. I make no apology for who I am, but I sometimes in certain situations
Good.
will be flamboyant and flirty, and obviously the gay in the room. And in other situations, I'll hold back because perhaps it's a business meeting, and it's all. Perhaps I'm with some heavily religious people that just don't share my views and feelings, and that's okay. Um, but the point is, when it comes to sexuality, you there is a journey where you naturally start to make sense of it as you grow up. How you deal with it in life is one thing, but with ADHD, it's the same, but it never makes sense. And you don't know why you're different. And so you have to look at other people, see what people are doing, just believe that that's normal. And that's where, for me, masking comes from, because you just mold yourself around other people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's no, you're right. There's so much to look at, and I mean, even with that was neurodiversity, whichever way, be it ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, whichever, it's very much a spectrum rather than, linear, as
Mm.
they say. So you can't just look at every single person who has ADHD and go, yeah, that's me, 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 because things are going to be slightly different. So you still have to look at that, and you still kind of like, okay, I have ADHD, I've got a diagnosis. However, this is not me. I don't do this. I don't do that, and I don't hear people talking about that, but I do that, and
Yeah.
so it's a complicated process. It's not straightforward. Even if you've got the diagnosis, you still have to really take time and put effort in to work out who you are and what things are, I guess, the ADHD parts,
And
you know.
exactly.
But it's an interesting journey as well. Um, and I find talking to people in the, if you like to call it, the neurodiverse,
Community, you
see,
could
now
say.
this, my words are going now. So
I'll
community,
I'll
thank you
be
very
your
much.
teleprompter. Don't worry,
Um,
love.
yeah, please, yeah. Can that stop now? The teleprompter's absolutely stopped now. So, so now I'm just lost. Um, so yeah, in the neurodiverse community, talking to people in that, be it on Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, whatever, I find it's really helpful, because one, straight away there's acceptance,
Yeah.
um, and I'm loving that. Even though everyone's journey is slightly different, there's acceptance straight away, and you have the ability to talk, and people will listen as much as an ADHD can listen. We, we, it's nice. I feel comfortable
I I completely.
speaking about it.
Sorry. I absolutely, you have hit the nail on the head. It's for me, finding certain online outlets, and going back, just because it's the only thing I can relate to. Going back to the gay thing, as you go through your teens and go into your early adulthood, in that situation, in most towns you can find a gay bar and pop in and meet other gays and start to explore yourself, and your emotions and things.
Yeah,
But with this, no, there's no ADHD bar. There's no neurodiversity club that you can go in and meet everybody. And so online is great, and it's so um, liberating. For example, chatting with you. I can't even remember how we came across each other. It was no doubt through something on social media where we commented on something. I don't know. And for one reason or another, we ended up having a chat. We got to know each other. We've chatted,
yeah,
very few times, but we find ourselves sharing. Well, certainly me. I can't talk for you, but I think I can. I find myself sharing my real personal, intimate things that I would never discuss with anyone normally, and it just comes out natural. I just feel so at ease, and you relate, and when I interrupt you don't get rude. You don't think I'm rude, and I don't ruin a relationship, and I can forget what I'm saying, and you accept it, and it is just such a liberating experience to connect like that.
No, it is. It is. It's, I mean, God, to connect to anyone for whatever reason is really nice. But, when it's something that's affects your life so much, well, it affects your life, it is your
Mm.
life. So yeah, to speak to other people is just, I mean, beforehand, like you said about the interrupting and everything, oh, man, I used to hate it. I used to hate it. Because I always felt that I need to say what I need to say. And I've just found people interrupting me and then talking over me and then waffling on for half an hour. I used to find it really rude and really irritating. As one of the things that really, really sort of made me mad, and I just couldn't stand it. But now I know with the diagnosis and everything, I understand why, and I understand that other people might be exactly the same as myself in regards to speaking. And I kind of find it now very much tolerable because I know I like to have answers. I like to know reasons, and so then I can accept things and and really work with it. So now when it comes to this, I don't mind if people interrupt me because it is what it is. Two ADHDers chatting, there's going to be a lot of interrupting and going off topic, which we're off topic right now. So,
Yeah, we've gone for
but
a wander. Come on,
it is.
let's
But this is what
yeah,
it is.
no, it is.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that's because you find your place, and I feel a bit like a kid in a toy shop at the moment because there's so much to explore, and you look at one thing, and then the flashing lights in the other side of the shop come on, and you're chatting, and something you
yeah,
go off somewhere else. You said something to me the other day, which you've kind of touched on now, and it really hit home, and it's so true. Um, as an ADHD, well, certainly in our case, and I'm sure a lot of others will relate to this. And I think maybe this is a coping strategy because I've been thinking a lot about this. Maybe this is because you don't want to fail, you don't want to be misunderstood, and it's part of masking. Uh, we over-explain and we can talk forever, but when we're listening, we
yeah,
just want three bullet points.
yeah, yeah,
And I've been looking at on TikTok recently, and somebody's been saying that they want more TikTok this year. Apparently, the trend is going to be they want long videos. They don't want these 10-second things. They want sort of 5-minute things to compete with other platforms. And I was thinking that's going to be a disaster for the ADHD community. It's going to be great for the creators, but no one's going to listen through a 10-minute video.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, very true, very
so
true.
yeah, for me, masking just to really just sort of go back to that, I feel like I live my life wearing clothes that don't fit me, and
Mm,
often putting myself in situations, whether it's personally, professionally, friendships, activities, and just general life, where I overstretch my mental capabilities so much, not only just by being them, but
mhm.
by my own personal needing to prove that I am okay and I can do this. And so you put this front, you put this you just become without knowing anything else, um, in an uncomfortable brain, in an uncomfortable body, in an uncomfortable existence that's really not you in your true to yourself form. But you live through that as an
Yeah,
outwardly your real you. I'm not expecting any of my friends or family to go, oh, he's changed, nothing like that.
yeah,
um, I just think that it's just coming to terms with those, and you need to be able to get it out and be yourself, and people understand. But then this comes down to nobody really gets it, or nobody, um, the, the system, the professionals, the education system. It's so complicated. There's no tick box, as you quite rightly said. There's no list of it must be this and this and this, and we treat them like that. And there is very little information and education. If I say to somebody, how do I come out as an ADHD person to a friend who I've known for 10 years? Of course, I can say, look, I've been ill,
Mm,
and in my case,
yeah.
this last few months, I've had a lot of really bad psychological issues. I had a breakdown middle of last year, and one thing led to another, and that's where my ADHD diagnosis came in as part of it. But um, speaking to people who I've not spoken to for a while, and what's new? I've got ADHD, and the reaction. People don't know how to react because there's
Yeah.
a stigma around this difference. And if you'd have asked me a year ago, summarize ADHD, I genuinely would have said naughty kids chucking their chairs at the teacher's head. Um,
Yeah.
and the scary part is, you can't blame people for not having an understanding of something, because we're not
Yeah.
encyclopedias, we're humans. But the scary part for me is, as we've seen on the TV recently, in certain councils and things, the people in power have no idea, and therefore, for me, uh, I'm a middle-aged man like you, but I feel sorry for the kids at school who are in it, because their lives, their mental health, their stability, their futures. They Kids need to develop being their true selves and being true to themselves, and if not, they face a very difficult journey ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's shocking, it's shameful, it's sad. It's, I mean, like I say, it's about what you can hear with people in power and people who've got the ability to make decisions um, about our, welfare and supports, can have such a bad, bad perception of mental health issues or ADHDs or autism. And children and families, it's like the parents are always to blame as well. It's incredible. It's incredible the misinformation out there by the people in power. And yeah, you're right that you can't blame people for not understanding, because there's people who should know better, are coming out with a load of rubbish.
And then we
So that education out there
then
is,
we touch in politics, and a subject that we really don't want to go down today. But when you have ministers
yeah,
ministers
no,
who
no.
are in charge of departments of countries, and they've never done a day in their life in that field, it's a whole new war game. But absolutely right. You know,
Yeah.
doctors don't. My psychologist, which was the person that picked up on a few things, and a long story, but complicated over the last few months with me. But he said, I want to do an ADHD assessment on you, after another assessment had found some cognitive issues. Um, and he diagnosed me with the psychiatrist and the neurologist. And we've been talking, and he's a really, I will say, he's a very, very good psychologist, but very methodical and by the book, and he goes by the science. And as we've been talking, he's actually said to me, "You've made me think about the emotional effect of ADHD, because I didn't get that." And now, if a psychologist that's been, I don't know, he's a guy in his 50s and who's been doing it all of his life, if he doesn't really get that, then
Mm.
how the hell do the people that make the decisions in the world, or do people that we bump into in our day-to-day lives, how do you ever expect them to get that with just a brief explanation? And so it comes back to masking. I think that our lives will always contain masking, because in most cases, if I'm going to invest in educating you as my neurotypical friend exactly how my brain works, that's a huge investment of my time and effort, and takes a lot from you to understand it. So maybe in some cases it's better just go, yeah, I've got ADHD, I'm a bit dizzy, and then you continue that masking of the deeper side, and you risk not developing those true bonds that you should be developing.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think though, we need to be sort of met halfway. Well, I say halfway, but I mean there should be kind of an effort, so to speak, on both sides. Because I think in the last probably like 6 months, I've always thought, knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. People should understand what I'm going through and make time to understand. And I think that's good. And I think, that would be very helpful in all walks of life to understand somebody else. If you don't understand, try to understand. But now I think the key is acceptance. It's great if you could bring knowledge with it, but accept. So, if I'm with someone and I struggle with lots of people or going out, I don't expect you to understand. It'll be great if you can, do a course or speak to me about it or, research it. Cool, brilliant. But just, if nothing else, accept that I can't be in certain situations because it's too overwhelming for me. And that would help, I think, a lot of people just having acceptance, to them to be themselves without the knowledge of having to explain to someone who's never gonna understand. Um, that extra pressure. Um, so it's like my family or the people I talk to at work. Um, I'm lucky at work that my supervisors do accept. Um, they don't understand. They haven't asked lots of questions or anything like that at all. However, they accept everything I've told them and how I would prefer things to be done, or when I can do things. Um,
So
that was key for me.
they adapt or help you adapt to
Yeah,
your work. They make the
absolutely.
adaptations that are necessary.
Yeah, because one one supervisor, she's absolutely brilliant. Um, talks a lot, okay, and explains everything in lots of details, and she's cool with me saying, okay, just give me one thing, just give me one thing. If you want me to do something, just tell me what to do. I'll go do it. Okay. And she'll just stop and go, okay. And then she'll just say it. Job done. You know what I mean? I did some training the other day at work at night, but it was on the shop floor and there's lots of things going around, lots of people. I said to my supervisor, hey, look, struggling with this at the moment. I think probably better if I did this when it's a lot quieter later on. She goes, yeah, yeah, no worries. We'll finish it here then. You know what I mean? It's just simple little things like that that makes a world of a difference. I feel I can do that at work. I know there's a lot of people out there who don't feel they can do that, and that's cool. Their work environment is their work environment, and everyone is different. But I'm lucky where I am with the direct supervisors I have. They're cool. They don't ask loads of questions about it or anything like that, but they do ask me if I look a little bit down. Are you okay? Do you want to take some time out and stuff like that? I'm like, it's brilliant.
That's good. And
They don't understand. However, they are trying to help and adapt to make sure I'm
yeah,
okay.
and
That's all I
that's
can ask
very
for.
positive. And I hope that a
Yeah.
lot of people are in that position in all aspects of their life, because it's where we need to be. It's something you just said there is and again, coming back now to just to rein this back to where we wanted to talk about masking. You just touched on one thing, which was the "Are you okay?" And as somebody with
Mm,
complexities, I suppose I could say, in the way my brain works, that I've never really understood, but also in my experience, my mental health issues are part of that, which has been depression for many years, which as I come into middle life has worsened, um, and anxiety. Um, but that question of "Are you okay?" is a classic example of masking, which everybody does. And as you said earlier on, I'm not talking about, this is an ADHD thing, but the common, people ask, "Are you okay?" And that's a really powerful question. And most people will just reply
mm,
in whatever situation, "Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?" when actually they're not fine. And people, I think, often don't, when they ask, "Are you okay?" There's a socially acceptable answer to that, which is, "Yeah, I'm fine," or "No, my back hurts," and move on.
Mm.
And one of the things I'm finding as part of my unmasking process, that I'm doing more, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's good for me, I suppose. Um, when I'm connecting with people like yourself who really get it, when you ask me the question, "Are you okay?" I start to reply, "No, I'm not," or "Actually, I've had a really bad day with this and this and this, and this is how I'm feeling." And talking to people in the neurodivergent community, obviously they get it, and that's fine, and they also know that we need to express ourselves. But uh, it's just making a point that questions sometimes, "Are you okay?" The world needs to learn sometimes to say, "I'm not okay," because maybe if the
Yeah.
world learned to say, "I'm not okay," and actually respond to the question that's being asked, and maybe if people asked it with a genuine interest rather than because it's a social expectation that you always say, "Hi, how are you?" Um, if
Yeah.
we put a little bit of thought into that, more people would empathize, more people would learn about whatever uh, health condition or circumstances, um, and more people would suffer less mental health consequences because they're able to talk about what's going on in their life rather than keep it inside. And I think that certainly applies to me, but I think it applies in society in general. There's,
Yeah.
we don't always know how even the closest people, our friends, how they really are. We and for me, part of my unmasking journey is I think, I'm not going to say filtering and cutting off friends. That's just ridiculous. But looking at the value of those who I'm really closest to, and those who really get me, and those who value me and will value me for who I am and the baggage that goes with who I am. Um, and,
Yeah.
and then and put a real investment into my time with those people, because we need that, because the world, I think, apart from neurodiversity, the world's on the brink of major problems because so many people in this day and age are struggling with mental health in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I feel it's like people feel more comfortable talking about it now. It's out there, but at the same time, the support that is needed hasn't caught up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So, like, more people are talking about it, but then it ends up going nowhere when it comes to professional support because it's just not, they haven't got up to speed. There's, massive waiting lists and things like that. And so,
that goes down. That's a whole
I don't know.
other topic, isn't it? Because there's also a lot of stigma now
Yeah,
regarding, it's almost, I feel a bit shameful to say I've got ADHD because it's getting met with, I don't know about you, but I'm getting met with, everybody's got ADHD these days. It's just dead popular, that ADHD, isn't it? And there must be something in the water. I think was one that was on the TV recently.
one of the things.
Um, and no, I think we're going in the right direction. I think everybody's always had a bit of ADHD, but then again, without wanting to go into the too darker sides of it, there's always been people that have suffered with addictions, people that have suffered with their mental health, and people which have ended up suffering to the state of taking their own lives, um, because they're not understood. So when people, I do not take offense when somebody passes a comment like, "Oh, everyone's got a bit of ADHD," or "What's up? Have you lost your keys again?" If it's said in the right way, because it's an opportunity to educate somebody just a little bit. But I just want to say that,
Yeah,
Messi, because people out there who are thinking of ADHD as, the hyperactivity, which it says in the name, but that doesn't necessarily mean somebody that can't stop running around and that's, a kid that's always making noise. That could mean somebody that's hyperactive in their head silently, with their brain burning energy 5 times more than a neurotypical person who is in a really dark,
Yeah.
suffering place because they're not understood, because they don't even understand themselves. And people get into really bad situations in their life. Kids grow up, the kids that have got potential, that could do anything they want in their life, end up with addictions, uh, committing crimes in prison, suicide, going down some darkest and most tragic. And so education is the key. I don't expect people to, like you said, I don't expect anybody to be able to understand me completely, because I don't think I'll ever understand myself. But I think acceptance and some kind of empathy is as humans is something that we all have the right to deserve.
Yeah. Same with any medical issues, really. Like you break your leg, right? The doctor is putting you in a cast, or they're putting metal rods in there, stuff like that. They have no idea the pain you go through or what it's like to have a broken, unless they've done it
Mm.
themselves. And if they haven't done it themselves, they're still probably the best people to talk to, because they're doing the operations, stuff like that. So they accept it, and they do whatever they can to help. And it's the same with this. If you've got people who can just accept and do whatever they can to help, and they're learning all the time and asking the questions to improve their knowledge of what the people they're helping are going through, that's a big thing. you know don't just rely on what you've read in the book and that's it. You need to adapt the people you're
Yeah.
with. I'm gone right off topic now. I haven't got what we're talking
I know. Shall we talk about motorbikes or something? Shall we? Shall we?
Yeah.
No,
So,
but
what?
this is the problem. This is how it tends to go. But there's something that we were talking about uh, with friends, with masking, with being who you are. What I've yet to, I don't know, because I've been diagnosed less than a year like you, so I've not come into this particular situation yet, and I'm sort of cocooned at the moment because of my other problems. So I'm sort of I'm not out and about and doing stuff much. But how do we go about making new friendships? Because it's one thing if I call my best friend, who, for example, who when I was in hospital in the summer was here to help me and everything, and I call and say, look, they've diagnosed me with this, and she's very empathetic. Well, that's bad, but that's good, because you can start. She understands it's great, and I can be very simple and say, look, if I start to say weird
Yeah.
things, just let me, or if I don't do that, or now you understand why I don't text you when I say I will, and all of that stuff. But when you put in a situation of making new relationships, I don't know if you've gone down this route yet or not, but are we expected to say, this is me, by the way, I've got ADHD, and because I think maybe we not necessarily need to say it, but we need to let our instinctual behaviors and emotions come out in forming new relationships,
Yes.
and we need to also
Yeah.
accept that not everyone will accept us, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've never thought of it, to be fair. But yeah, making new sort of friendships. Yeah, start afresh. Start how you mean to go on.
Because if you start on the trap
You know,
of masking, it comes back to the thing which is very, very closely related, which is people pleasing. Where
yeah,
you realize that you kind of like this person. They could be a good friend. They're nice. They enjoy some of the things I enjoy, but they also have this view, or they also feel like that, or they're also interested in this. So I must be too, or I must go along with it, because otherwise, this person or these people might not like me. We'll say it as simple as it is, or may think different of me because I feel like this. But if they're going to think differently of you because of how you think, then there's a question there, isn't there, as to whether you go
yeah,
into whether you invest your time and energy into that. And I think just
yeah,
going from my experience, I've spent my whole life people pleasing, whether that's to fit in at work, whether that's to achieve, whether that's to take on the extra responsibilities in whatever area of my life to help people out, to get that gratification that I so desperately need, and prove to myself that I'm worth something, and that validation of me as a person. Um, and in relationships, I think that spills into that as well. And so relationships and friendships, shall I be really, really strong and say they can be built on untruths, on lies?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very, very true, and it's something that affects. Well, it's affected me. Looking up past relationships. I am doing a podcast on this, by the way. Um, that yeah, you're not yourself, and it's all a front. It's all a show. Um, and even still, they don't even like it. You know, they don't like the film you're in, and they want a different film. Like, well, you don't have to be a
Yeah,
different film. Even though you are acting, you just don't know why you're
yeah.
acting. But it's,
Do you people do,
but like I said, I think it's very.
do you
Sorry.
people please, or did you people please in general?
Yes. Yeah, I still do now, but it's. I understand why, and I don't do as much anymore. Um, Now, people pleasing has, I think, it's up there with the RSD, where I I hate to be criticised. Not that it makes me mad, but it just makes me feel
I can relate to
real
that. Yeah,
bad, very quickly. So the people pleasing is to try just to stop any sort of criticism or negative, guess, feedback or vibes coming from anyone, because I know how bad I'm going to feel if I get anything. Um, so yeah, people pleasing is there. But then again, as much as it's come from the wrong place and for the wrong reason, it has helped, I feel, in one area. Um, the mental health uh, struggles, going into dark places, and as dark as they have been in the past, the one thing that kept me going, the one thing that kept me going was I can't do that to my family,
yeah,
um, because I can't bear the fact that how much they will be destroyed and how bad I would have made them feel. And I can't be the person responsible to making them feel like that, you know. And I like to think other people would think that way as well. But for me, it was just really strong. It was really strong. Um, and I just glad they were there. They didn't know anything about the struggle or anything like that at all at that time. Um, but I had to make sure that they're happy. They kept happy, you know. So I can't knock it too much, but I don't do it as much anymore, especially at work. Don't do it at work anymore. I stressed at work all the time with my jobs because of everything. Um, Everything just got so much and everything like that. But I still try to people please all the time. And no, because one thing I've learned over time is, generally speaking, where you work will replace you in a heartbeat. Okay, unless you might be in an amazing place with amazing managers and bosses, whatever. Brilliant, and you might be one of those amazing managers and bosses. But I'm not gonna kill myself for work anymore. I am going to look after myself, so I will say no at work. I will say no, that's too much. Not going to do it. Um, Not even going into the ADHD side or anything like that at all. So I'm not doing it. You know, if if I don't feel that my work or the people I'm around are going to look after me and make sure I'm okay, I'm not going to put my all into it because it's not worth my mental health anymore. So in that respect, I'll say no. I'm not going to people please. I'll do my job. I get paid to do a job, so you do your job. But that's it. So I work where I work, do my job, go home. I don't have to people please. I am myself there. I have my good days and bad days. Um, so yeah, so unlimited. I don't people please at home. Um, in respect of how I used to do it, I please my wife, so to speak. Probably
A cut.
not the right phrase
that's
to use.
that's for the other one we're doing
Maybe
after
we'll
the
cut that out.
watershed. Yeah.
but but with my wife, she, in all intents and purposes, is perfect. How she is with me, we fit together like a hand in glove, and she has my utmost respect, utmost support. So I people please with her because she absolutely deserves it.
I,
And not many people do deserve that, but she does. So in her case, yes, I will bend over backwards to do anything to make her happy because she does the same to me.
I think when we're talking, because we flipped there from what you flipped there quite rightly, but you flipped from attitude towards um, a job to attitude towards your partner, and I think that reflects that the 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 level of mental effort we put in does depend on circumstance, and those of us who are
Yeah,
lucky. I put something up on the internet yesterday about this. I think those of us that are lucky enough to have a loving, caring, understanding partner that will just accept us, for good and bad, we are very lucky. And you touched on at your darkest moments, you've kept going for those closest to you, and I completely relate. I've done that. In my case, and this is another topic for another day, but because of my mental health problems and the way I was going, my husband
yeah.
actually suffered a lot more when deep down everything I was trying to do in life was to keep life going and keep getting things better for us, but the consequences were that I wasn't a very a good person. I was absent and I was adding a lot of problems. But he's still here, and now on the ADHD journey. Even though he said the other day, and I fully understand this, I'm a bit concerned that you're spending so much time on the internet. So we had to have a little chat about, this is I'm not just doom scrolling. I'm actually connecting with people, and it's good for me. And now he understands. But I think
Mm.
we've certainly got to people please in our relationships a little bit, and I think perhaps those of us that are diagnosed in adulthood, who've been with our partners a long time, in some ways, now that we make a bit of sense of our life, we've got some ground to cover and some making up to do. In my case, anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, we are who we are, and it's acceptance is of ourselves is a big thing, and it just helps to point you in the right direction of where you need to go. And like I say, if you need to make up for things, absolutely. If you need to steer things in a certain direction, you know, at least there is a compass now
Mm,
and a map,
yeah, exactly.
and
A very clear
so
one. Touch on what you said there, and I think just really kind of related to masking, kind of related to mental health, but just maybe worth mentioning because um, you and me are talking to each other now, seriously in a privileged position because despite everything that's happened in our lives, we are lucky that we've got a partner at home. And I have spoken to a lot of people
yeah,
who because directly or indirectly, but because of the issues and the traumas and the problems and the explosions and the impulsivity or whatever the possible combination of things have struggled when it comes to making those type of deep meaningful connections, and they've lost people and they've made mistakes, and there's people out there that I spoke to a lady the other day, and I spoke we passed comments on the internet, and she said she's on her own and she just wants to meet someone, and all of her relationships have always failed because of my ADHD. And that made me
Mm.
sad. That
Yeah.
made me think, that's sad. And I said to her, whether it's right or wrong advice, um, I said, look, with the whole unmasking thing, I said, you've got to love you for who you are, which is a most cliche thing, and the hardest thing. And then the right person will come along that loves you for who you are. And
Yeah.
I think it, but I think there's a lot of people out there that let's go back to the big subject here of ADHD, which is what your podcast is about, and that's one of the serious things. It can have a knock-on effect on not only the person but their partners as well, because it's your partner that's there through all of that. And when you close the door to the world, your partner that often has to take the slack, and so we're very lucky to have loving partners, but you've got to think about the people that haven't been so lucky or aren't so lucky, and they're struggling with this on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I, 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 I feel for them. I mean, I can't put myself now in that sort of situation. I struggled with relationship previously, all the time, but now I'm in a really good place. And I know, like you said, we're privileged. I know I'm lucky, even though everything I've gone through, and everything in my life. I know I am still lucky, compared to a lot of people. Um, I've there's a lot of things could have gone completely wrong for me, but they didn't. Now, whether that's because of the person I am, maybe that's because my parents, and family. I, I don't know, but they just didn't go massively wrong for me. Um, but they have for many, many people, and I just hope it changes for the future. It starts to change, um, and everyone can get the help, whatever they're dealing with,
Mm.
neurodiversity or not. Just people are able to get the help and access the help that they need, the support that they need, and the acceptance that they need.
And I think the
So,
key points, we have gone off topic quite a lot today, but the 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 the, the,
yeah,
the key
yeah,
point, I mean, it
that's
comes
all
back
right.
to masking, and let's not forget. I think everything we've talked about comes under this umbrella of hiding emotions, people pleasing, and all of this stuff. And I think, right from stuff needs to change, so that right from childhood, people are not just put into a school uniform and everyone has to be this model. This needs to change, and as a society, for God's sake, we're
Mm,
in 2024, and whatever minority, there's still misinformation, judgments, stigmas, and we need to break that down, and encourage acceptance. And sadly, in the world we live in, there's a long way to go. But what I think is important that we all try and
yeah,
do from that, because neither you or me are going to change the world. I think it's important that people find their people and find their place and their happy place, and whether that is something like a social media chat room where you can connect with people. It's really important that everybody, I think, for their mental health, has that a support network around them. And there are some wonderful people out there, um, and as more and more people are recognizing symptoms of ADHD, getting it looked into, um, touching bases. I know that there's a lot of people touching bases with these chat rooms that think they may have, or that are affected, that come in and then realize they haven't, but they've got a chance to talk through their feelings. And I think as a society, we need to understand more, but also as individuals, we need to not be afraid to stand up and say, this is how I am feeling, and this is my weaknesses, and this is what I need help with.
yes,
I think that's something that because you're my sort of age, so you probably come from the period of boys don't cry and all that kind of thing as you're growing up, and you know the
yep,
the times have got to change a little bit. If you want to cry, let it all out. You've got to.
absolutely, absolutely, brilliant, mate. Thank you so much. Chico, for sharing your experiences
Thank you.
with me and to the millions of listeners to this podcast.
Thank you very much for having me
or one
on.
or
It's
two.
been fabulous. And I hope we can have another catch up soon. There's a million subjects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But for now, peeps, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.